This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West Podcast with your host, Brandon Cook and Nick Harrington.
And welcome back to the Hockeytown West Podcast, your source for everything Toledo Walleye and Grand Rapids Griffins hockey. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
I'm your other host, Nick.
And we are back after missing one episode because our lives are absolutely crazy and day jobs suck and people need to share our podcast everywhere. So this could be a full-time job.
We'd probably put out 3 episodes per week if we did that.
Maybe even 4. No, I'm kidding. No, life gets in the way, and that's just a fact. We appreciate everyone's patience. And sorry you had to miss us on that one because we had a lot to talk about in that one. So we'll try to condense some of that stuff down into this one. Unfortunately, Toledo probably won't be talked about too much in this one, which just means this week's Toledo Thursday will be jam-packed full of great Toledo Walleye information because there's only one Griffins game in the middle of the week that week instead of 2 plus 2 more. So it does help us out there. But outside of that, it's been a little bit. Sir, how are you?
I'm good this morning, waking up to 2 wins, there's nothing better than that. And a Mo Sider fight. Yeah, I'm on the top of the world. I'm happy.
Dude, Mo chucking them. Oh my God. I was so nervous. I'm like, don't pull a Mantha and break your hand. Don't pull a Mantha and break it. But dude, Mo can fight. I never doubted that he could, but he can fight.
I'm just glad the lid got blown off and he was just ready to go and he didn't disappoint. I feel like it's been bottling for 2 years for him.
It's funny, too, because he looked so calm afterwards. It's just like, yeah, he got that out. He's like, oh, good. Everybody snaps once in a while, right?
I think Maria watched it 6 times this morning. She goes, oh my gosh. Yeah, she was still she goes, there's my kid.
It's still on repeat on the TV over there. I don't know. It hasn't stopped since last night. I fell asleep watching it.
That's why the views are so high on it.
No, that was incredible. And yes, there was another win there, too. Congrats to Trey Augustine. He just continues to collect trophies.
Yeah, outstanding player.
Yeah, outstanding player. He's got a Big Ten playoff championship, a World Juniors championship. He's only a freshman in college. It's absolutely wild to see. Guy that scores the game-winning goal for MSU as a freshman. Things are looking good for the MSU hockey program, which has been a program that not a lot of people looked at for a long time. It kind of fell off after they joined the NCAA from the CCHA. But it seems like they're back, and that's good. I mean, anything's good for Michigan hockey, as much as I hate to admit that being a diehard Michigan fan. Seeing positive hockey movement in the state of Michigan is always good. Michigan Tech won their championship last night. MSU won theirs. The vibes for hockey in Michigan are good.
And overall. Michigan won the last 2 championships as well for the Big Ten. So,
yeah, this is MSU's first Big Ten playoff championship ever. So it took them long enough. Sorry. The Michigan fan coming out at me in there. And for those that didn't see on Twitter, there was a friendly wager between the 2 of us. So I've got to rock that disgusting green and white jersey at the next Griffins game. Not Wednesday, the next game we go to together.
Yeah.
I know Nick's going to want to enjoy that in person.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to take pictures.
If Michigan would have won, he would have had to wear mine. But I will say one thing. That MSU tying goal for their 3rd goal of the game was BS. And it was. That's the worst call I've ever seen.
So I'll be honest.
If Michigan's goal was waved off and that one went in, bull.
I got home kind of late because I took I went out to dinner with Maria's family, and so I came home at the 2nd period of the Griffins game last night, and then as soon as that ended, I switched over to the Michigan State game. I saw it was on overtime, and so I started watching it from overtime. So I'm going to watch the game today since there's no hockey today and catch up. So I can't argue or say I agree with you on that 3rd goal, but the sound of the game-winning goal hitting the post, the pause, and then the crowd going off was just chef's kiss. Fantastic.
I mean, all that game did was prove to me that all college championship games should be held at the higher seeds home stadium instead of these neutral sites. Could you imagine some of these championship games out there? Could you imagine if the college football playoff national championship would have been at Michigan? The difference in that would make. I know neutral sites, makes it a fair environment. Screw that. Give me more of that. Because that was poetic right there. The way that shot, that game-winning shot was absolutely wicked. Goalie stood no chance there. But I mean, both teams played a really good game from the parts of it that I saw. I'm glad it was just this battle of goals that went to overtime. Like, you couldn't have painted a better picture of it. Now both teams will go on to have the chance to play for the national championship, from what I understand.
Yep.
So it's it could happen again. What Adam Nightingale's done with that program already is just outstanding work, and it's important because we have 2 prospects in that team who are young, and any development for them is good.
Well, and Michigan has a prospect of ours as well, so you get a little win there. So he played well.
I mean, yeah, it is what it is at the end of the day. Congrats to them. Congrats to Trey. He's an outstanding goaltender. I just really hope everything translates. That's my biggest fear, and that's always gonna be my biggest fear. But what a game for him.
The one thing that I do want to mention is I don't know if you saw this, but there was one shot that hit the boards like really weird, and it bounced back out, and Trey, not a care in the world, as calm as can be, gets back in the net and just takes care of business. Like, I was like, holy crap. Like, he's so calm. He's so poised. Like, I just love that aspect of the goalie. Like, we'll get more into it later on. But yeah, it's just so calm, so poised, so young. I'm so ready.
Yeah, the hype train's real there. I hope he spends another season or even 2 down there just to get, I know what else does he have to prove? Prove he can do it consistently. That's what he's got to prove. That's what everyone asks. I know that's what you asked too. Just prove the consistency there. But enough about MSU. Let's talk about these Grand Rapids Griffins. They played 2 in Manitoba last week. One was Manitoba's school day game. It was at 11:30 in the morning. And it sucked. It was terrible.
I don't
it was
even
their worst game of the season. I mean, it's funny because listening to Bob talk about it in the next game, he's talking to the players. He's like, I don't want to say, you guys were lazy or all this. And the guys were like, no, we sucked. Like, that was bad. Like, we know it was bad. And love that mentality of understanding, like, yeah, we shit the bed and we did it bad. The game was so bad we won't even really dive into it. I mean, it is what it is. It happened and they lost.
We knew it was a trap game.
I think we said that in the episode before that those 2 games are potential trap games for how well Manitoba's been playing lately. And don't get me wrong, they've been playing some outstanding hockey, and Thomas Milic and net has been unreal for them, and he was in those games as well. But they lost that one 5-1. The only storyline of that was Elmer scored a goal, which is great to see. But with that, we move on to the next day, because that's about how much attention I want to give that game, if I'm being honest with you. The only other thing to note, I guess, would be that Hutchinson was in net for that one. And
let's keep the vibes high. Yeah.
yeah. We'll keep the vibes as high as we possibly can here with this game. So just dive again. We want to talk more about this weekend since this is over a week old, but we've got to talk about Wednesday's game against Manitoba, where the Griffins bounce back from that game and win 4-1. And what this tells me is just like watching. We've talked about it all season long. Dan Watson knows how to identify a problem and correct it pretty quickly. To be able to get beat down like that and then come in and play a good game, play one of their better games of the season against this Manitoba team, who is still a really good hockey team, and come out and win that game 4-1 in just dominant fashion. It just shows you how good of a coach he really is and how good the rest of the coaching staff really is. They bounced back in a way this team would have not bounced back from that last season.
Yeah.
That game would have kicked off an 8-game losing skid right there.
Yeah, we saw a lot of that last season. I mean, they could have easily just packed their bags to go to Manitoba, get on the plane, and turn around and come right back, pack it in. But I mean, they came out, they played better. They still got outshot.
They did.
30 by 10 shots. So I know you got to watch a lot more of this game than I did. But go ahead, go break it down.
Yeah, I mean, so like you said, they got outshot. Manitoba outshot Grand Rapids by 10 in this one, 33-23. So Sebastian Kosa got the start, stops 32 of 33. Absolutely outstanding game for him. Just continues to show why everyone's talking about him. Like, he's earning all the praise right now. He's working so hard and playing just so well. Another one to note from this is Elmer Soto on back-to-back games with goals. He got his 11th of the season in this game. The other goals for the Griffins in this one, Aston Reese got his 11th of the season. Rafferty got his 3rd, and Luff with the empty netter got his 4th. So just overall in this game, the Griffins, yes, they got outshot, but it was the shots that they were putting on net were so well calculated. Everything was so precise in their movement with how they were able to go through the Manitoba defense. And they outplayed them, but still were outshot. It's weird to say it like that, but that's exactly what happened. They outplayed Manitoba. They outsmarted Manitoba in this game. Manitoba looked like Grand Rapids the day before, but was able to still shoot the puck. Luckily, Kosa was there. I don't want to say if Hutch was in net, this result might look different, but there's a couple more goals in the back of the Griffins net, I think, because Kosa did have to step up and make some saves that I think only Sebastian Kosa can make.
Yeah, I mean, he's been fantastic the last last 17 games. I mean, I broke it down. Bob Gazer said it, tweeted it out. I mean, he's 11-1-5 in his last 17, 15 game points straight. He's tying the franchise record. I wanted to see who has the franchise record, but I didn't. Nobody really delved into those in the stats. I don't know if it was like Jimmy Howard, any of the other bigger.
I think it was Jimmy.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it was Jimmy back in the day.
So, I mean, it's great for Kosa, and then you see him, throughout the week as well, gain that momentum, and maybe we're leaning a different way, He also has to check his rear view because Carter Guylander signed this week too. So, and assigned to Grand Rapids. So maybe the pressure is a little on Kosa at the moment.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that before we get into Saturday's game for sure. But we did get our first look at a player in this Wednesday game. It was Radim Shimmick. He made his first start with Grand Rapids after being traded with the acquired in the Klim Kostin deal, I should say. And I know you didn't get to watch much of this one. So my first impressions of Shimmick, I love him. He fits this team so well. He's the perfect plug and play if you happen to be missing a rather tall defenseman on the back end. We'll talk about that in a second. And yeah, dude, he's like Bob said it probably 60 times throughout the broadcast. Dude is built like he is a sturdy human being. He is a big dude. It's funny when you hear him interviewed. He's got a little bit of broken English. One of the most shocking things to me in his interviews that I've heard so far is he did not see the trade coming. He had no clue that this was going to happen. And then he found out, and it was like, oh, I'm going to uproot my life for the last 7 years here in San Jose, and I'm going to Grand Rapids. And I know it's the last year of my deal. I don't know what this is going to look like for next season for me. So he's got a 2-year-old kid who life completely uprooted. That's why it took him so long to get here. And props to the organization for giving him time. A lot of organizations will be like, nope, you're my player. I need you right now. And they understood, like, we have the depth defensively to not require him to be here yet. And they were patient with it. And I'm glad they did. I think that really helped him get buy-in into the organization very quickly. He seems like he really wants to be here and wants to play well. He's a veteran guy. He's played a lot of games. And I really like his play. He brings a whole new element to the penalty kill. And seeing him first line penalty kill in this first game with us, I was like, oh, what are we doing? And I'm glad they did it. I mean, he's going to bring a lot to the table, and I think he's going to be a really helpful piece with this team going into the playoffs.
I'm really excited about this guy already. I mean, just based off of like his stats, and he's more comparable to, Albert Johansson. And I wanted to touch on this later on the episode, but I completely forgot with the interview with our guest spots. But this Simon being moved up created that hole, and this is where Radim comes right in and fills that hole for us. For them to be able to give him that time to be able to adjust, come over to Grand Rapids, he's on the last year of his deal. Like, I think if the organization takes the other role of, hey, no, we need you here, we've got a game, like meet us here in Manitoba kind of thing, I think that plays a little differently for him. I think they're going to try to convince him to stay longer. I think that would be huge for us if he could, because the 2 games that he's played well. You don't feel that big hole that Simon has left. He's been able to plug. He's been able to play. He's not making crazy mistakes. He's playing solid. And that also goes to show you the culture that Dan Watson has. Like, he's preached it the whole time. It's more about the players. It's about the people. He wants to take care of the people and then coach the players. So I think that also buys into that, and hopefully Radim sees that. And I hope he signs here. I mean, you can never turn down another veteran defenseman. You never know what's going to happen with the guys that we have currently that are up.
Yeah, I mean, when you peel it back and think about it, when we acquired Josiah Didier, we acquired Providence Bruins as captain. We already had players in this team who could be viewed as captains. We're talking about Dominic Shine and the other leadership on this team. And then you go and acquire San Jose Barracuda's captain and Shemek. Like the leadership on the veteran side of this team, just true leaders in that room. Not to mention, hey, our old captain's one of the coaches.
Yeah.
Like, we just have true natural leadership in that locker room right now surrounding these young prospects that this team is full of. You can't ask for anything better than that when you're going into the playoffs. Like what they're going to be able to show these kids, I think they're going to all learn a lot quicker than what they would have without these guys. So I'm very happy with the acquisition. I like them a lot. And I've seen a lot of them in Saturday's game too, which we'll talk about obviously next. But yeah, I'm a big fan. Well, the last notes for that game: Marco Casper, Amadeus Lombardi, Antito Amisto all end up with assists in this game as well. That should be noted. And like I said, Elmer scored goals back-to-back games. So outside of that, before we move into the Rockford game, which is the most recent one, is the one that happened last night, let's talk about what else happened this week. And that would be one, Simon Edvinsson is in Detroit. That happened. It finally happened. It's something that we were all like, oh, I don't want it to happen at the Grand Rapids level, but it was kind of inevitable, right?
Yeah.
But it's happened. And how do you feel?
So Simon's always been one of my most conflicted players. Love-hate relationship with him. I feel like I got the cheapest jersey that's going to be available for the rest of the season from him. Looking back on that jersey purchase, but from what I've seen on Wings Twitter, and I did delete Twitter off my phone this week, so it's been off and on. But he's played well. I don't see the backlash. I feel like everybody's confident of him being in the role that he's been in. He's been playing well, and they're not ready to send him back to Grand Rapids. I see more reports of other players coming to Grand Rapids, or other talks of players coming to Grand Rapids.
I don't think other talks of players to Grand Rapids is going to be a thing. But at the same time, yeah, Simon's looked very good in Detroit. I mean, I think back to Larkin's first game back and Larkin's goal that he had. Simon using his reach at the blue line, being able to keep that puck in and keep that play alive. It doesn't happen without him being there. Like, that's not a play that Jeff Petrie can make. That's not a play that Ben Sherratt can make. It's a play that Mo Sider can make. It's a play that Simon Edvinsson can make. But no one else in that blue line is going to make that play. And seeing, like, he's been disciplined. He hasn't taken a ton of penalties. I think he's taken one in that time. I could be wrong on that. But at the same time, like, he's showing that he's grown. It's showing that those extra games he got here in GR definitely did help him. I know everyone's been beating the drum of calling him up all season long, and he got that brief call up and sent right back down. Like, those extra games were crucial, and it's showing. So hopefully, for his sake, or in Detroit's sake, I want to see him stay in Detroit, at least for a playoff push for Detroit. If they get bounced in the first round, yes, he needs to come back to Grand Rapids. Obviously, we have business to attend to here. But at the same time, man, I'm so happy for this kid, and just seeing him be able to jump into that role and make an impact. Like,
yeah,
the games we've won since that skid the Wings went on, he's made an impact on that directly. And there's not many other players in the organization that can come in and make the impact he made.
That's the biggest thing too. Is I'm like, he's made an impact. He's played well. You want him to succeed. I want him to succeed while he's up there. I mean, if this helps Detroit get over the edge and makes them into the playoffs again, we'd love to see it. Now they're probably only going to make a first round. That's how the team's set up this year. I want to see him back here. I think the time, like we told everybody to be patient, we're going to still continue to beat the drum and be patient. And that time worked well for him. He grew. He was better. Hoping he doesn't make those crazy mistakes that he made down here while he's up there. So,
yeah,
happy for him.
And I don't think he will make those mistakes. I think he's learned very well from. He's going to make mistakes though, but I don't think they're going to be the head scratchers that we've seen down here. Yeah. So, nope, that's good for him there. I like that. Hopefully the Wings decide what they're going to do with Berggren and just get him back here as soon as possible. If you're going to keep Simon there and keep Sittenberg in the press box, let's get him back here. We talk about that more with our guests later on. But we had to make sure we talked about Simon here before we jumped into this game. So, Saturday, the Griffins in Rockford, the potential playoff opponent for Grand Rapids, unless, Milwaukee continues their skid and we end up taking first in the division, which is very possible at this point. But the red hot Ice Hogs, I think they had won 10 of their last 11 games coming into this game, and Grand Rapids ends up coming out of this one with a 4-3 win in regulation. So we didn't give them a point. That is huge. This was a weird game. So Griffins come out in this one. Sebastian Kosa gets the first back-to-back start in a long time when it comes to games. Dan Watson went with Kosa again in this one, which I fully respect and completely understand why he did that, and love that he did that. And if I'm being honest with you, I hope he does it again on Wednesday against Cleveland. But I know it could happen. There's enough time between games where I think it could happen. And Hutch has had a bad experience with Cleveland the past couple times he's played. That's where I stick with that. But Grand Rapids comes out in this one, gets 2 goals in the first and a goal in the second to put them up 3-0, and they almost blow this. They allow Rockford to come back and score what I would say 3 legit goals. They're good goals. Like, I can't be mad at them. Rockford outplayed Grand Rapids in the goals that they did score. But luckily, our hero, Zach Aston-Reese, with like a minute and 6 seconds left, was able to get the win for the Griffins. So the goals in this one, Cross Hannes kicked things off with his 8th of the season. Drew Comesso played the puck poorly behind the net, ends up giving it right to Cross Hannes, who bounces it in off a defenseman. Well, Comesso's trying to get back in the net. If you're a goaltender, tend the goal.
Tend the goal.
One of those. Hannes has delivered a nice little gift there, gets his 8th of the season, but again, continues to turn it on lately. Then Marco Kasper gets his 12th of the season on the power play. Thank God, a power play goal. Yes, we are still struggling there, folks. We are still... we're beating a dead horse when we're talking about the power play. We're not going to dive into that. But that was assisted by Taro Hirose and Matt Luff. And then Antti Tuomisto gets his 5th of the season. Beautiful shot by Antti Tuomisto here with Marco Kasper in the zone as well. They break in. Kasper finds him, and it's an uptight, in-close shot. Like, we've seen Tuo bury these before. It looks like he doesn't get all of it on his stick, but it didn't matter. He buries it. Johansson also got the secondary assist on that one. Then Rockford comes back. Philip Ruse gets his 2nd of the season. I saw this goal, and then Bob said this was this guy's 2nd of the season. Like, he walked 3 of our players. Like, I was like, oh, okay. He decided to have his moment of greatness for the season and gets Rockford on the board. Then Cole Gutman, a guy that we've dealt with all season long with Rockford, he's got the hot hand for them, gets his 13th and 14th goal of the season to tie the game. And like we said, Zach Aston-Reese with Dom Shine and Les Perance assisting on the goal gets the game winner. Oh, this one was a wild ride, man.
Yeah, it was. I saw the 2. I kept home just in time to see the 2-0 goal. And I was like, all right, here we go. Like, we just got to close them out for the last, I think it was like 10 minutes left in the game. And then we get tied. They score that game tying goal. And I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. What is going on? Because we were outplaying them. And this is what's been driving me nuts these last few games is like, we dominate the play in the offensive zone. We've got chances. We're shooting the puck on the net. We're just not putting away. We don't have that killer instinct yet where we're putting the team away with like getting that second, the third, like space goal, the creating that distance between us and the other team. And what happens is they'll take the puck, goes all the way to the other end, and they set up a beautiful goal, and we're tied or we're now down. This happened in Manitoba. This happened in Rockford. This happens to Rockford with us in Rockford every game we play against Rockford. And then we see it a lot in Cleveland too. We just need that killer instinct to put games away, either offensively or defensively. And I would rather see it on the offensive zone because that's where a lot of the play has been going.
So I actually almost disagree with you on this. I wouldn't say that we outplayed Rockford. This was so I know you missed part of the game. That's why I'm like, I disagree with that a little bit because it was very back and forth. Like Rockford had points of dominance where Kosa just did some Kosa-like things and saved the team there. I mean, Kosa was the reason this team has won this game, honestly. Kosa, again, against Rockford, giving them a chance to win. Remember back in January when they had the game where they only allowed the 1 goal on like 40-something shots, like that ridiculous game during the blizzard up here. but like Rockford is a good team. Let's put that out there. Rockford is a very, very good team. They have a lot of talent right now. Chicago sent some guys down. They're not picking it apart like another team that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But
they're 8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah, they're one of the hottest teams in the American Hockey League right now. Like it was Milwaukee, then it was Grand Rapids, and it's shifted to Rockford. It's crazy how like the hottest teams in the league are in this division. Like that just again tells you, paints you the picture of what this division is like. It's stupid.
It's chaos.
It's so dumb. It's just chaos. Like, but at the same time, like, yeah, there was moments of the game where we outplayed them, and there's moments of the game where they outplayed us. And what I loved about this is this game carried a playoff atmosphere from start to finish on the ice, in the arena as well. The arena was packed in Rockford. I question if a lot of their fans watch hockey consistently based on their reactions to some of the stuff, but I won't dig that deep on them. But this is the potential. Like again, this is a very strong potential. This is the first team we play in a best of 5 series in the first round, and as it stands now, we would have home ice advantage. Thank God. And I don't know. There's part of me that loves the thought of that because it's that Chicago-Detroit rivalry at it again, you know, especially when they're playing last night. Griffins were wearing their red and white Detroit jerseys. Ice Hogs jerseys look identical to the Blackhawks jerseys. The only thing that we could tell the two teams apart last night from their NHL affiliate was the logo on their jersey. That is it. So that's kind of fun. But at the same time, it's not a matchup I want because I know what they could potentially do. But at the same time, if you play Rockford in the first round and you beat them, you can kind of beat anybody.
Yeah.
That's kind of my mentality with this. So I don't want to play them, but at the same time, I do. I don't want that. I don't want to play the easy team. I want a challenge in the first round because if they make it through that, then I'm less stressed the rest of the rounds. Like I look at Toledo last year and look at the first few rounds they played. They played a bunch of teams they swept. They walked right through, and then they end up playing Idaho, and then, oh, shit, we have to play hockey. Like, I don't want the Griffins to ever have that moment. I don't want a first-round sweep. I want these players to be in these high-pressure situations and learn. Because I'm thinking on the development side, right? I want them to win a championship, but I also want these guys to learn a ton from these playoffs.
You want them to learn how to win a championship.
Yeah. Yep. I don't want them to just waltz into it. Like, let's be real. If they make it to the finals, there's a 99.9% chance they're going to play the Hershey Bears. And holy shit, that's going to be the biggest challenge that any of these guys might face in their careers.
Yeah. I mean, that team's a wagon.
They are the definition of a wagon.
Yeah. I mean, clip it now for Brandon for later, but when we get that first round exit. But like this, I saw this 3 weeks ago. I was like, man, if Texas can get their stuff together, Rockford's getting out of swing here. It's going to be us in Rockford. I mean, that's what it's set up right now for the playoff primer. We could still catch Milwaukee. We're only 6 points behind, but we played 3 more games against Rockford, and they're all back-to-back games. I mean, and it's.
Which could be good or bad.
Yeah, I think that's your test right there of what we do in those 3 games is going to really set up the playoffs because that's if my math is correct, 6-point game streak right there, or 6-point streak right there. Sweet.
Yeah.
So if we win them, perfect. We can't afford to go into overtime and win these games. We can't lose them either, but that would be like the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
For both teams to get points. So
Milwaukee's very catchable, and that's all I see right now. Like you said, we're 6 points behind them. In their last 10, they're 3-7. After going on a 19-game winning streak, they are 3-7 in their last 10. Like they've fallen off a little bit there. They're dealing with call-ups to Nashville too. And so what we really need right now is Nashville to maintain that wild card spot they're in and make the playoffs. Like if that happens, Milwaukee could be in trouble.
Yeah. I mean,
and Detroit making the playoffs does put the Griffins in a little bit of a spot too, but not as bad. We're deeper than them. That's the funniest part.
We're 6 points behind Milwaukee. We're 8 points ahead of Rockford and 9 points ahead of Texas. So they're very close, but I just don't think Logan
not comfortably in second by any means.
No, not at all. Is Logan? Is he still with Texas? Is he with
Dallas?
Yeah. Is he with Dallas?
Yeah.
Oh. Yep. So they've kind of gone on a slide since they removed him from the lineup.
3-6-1 in their last 10.
So I mean, it's so close. We play all of the rest of our games. We play Cleveland on Wednesday. But the rest of the games are all against the Central Division. They're all huge games.
Yeah, like the playoffs are not set. Like no team is eliminated in the Central. Not a single team. Even Iowa, even Chicago, no one's eliminated. I mean, that's the craziest part. They're close. They're close, but no one is.
We can clinch on Wednesday.
We can clinch our playoff spot on Wednesday, but we need to be in that top 3 to avoid the play-in games. So for those that aren't aware, 4 and 5 in the Central Division play a best of 3 play-in round essentially to play the top seed in the division in their first round. They like Milwaukee would essentially get the first round bye as it stands right now.
Yep.
So I don't want to be anywhere near a best of 3 because there's recipe for disaster. One bad game could screw the whole thing.
And we saw this last year. Somebody won the play-in round and went like the 3rd round in.
I don't remember what team that was. It was in a different. It wasn't in this division because the team that won the play-in round in this one got bounced immediately by Milwaukee. I think it was last year.
It was a weird situation last year. So like it's so close in this division. It's like it reminds me of baseball. Like it's literally anybody's game now. We're at that end.
Yeah, I mean, what you got to remember too, unlike the NHL, 23 teams in the AHL make the playoffs. 23
for development.
It is all for development. It was NHL teams requesting more playoff teams being in to get their players more playoff games. So the AHL is wild when it comes to the playoffs. The Griffins need to be in one of those top 2 spots in the division, or top 3 essentially, but I'd rather them in the top 2 to at least get home ice in the first round. If you get top of the division, you got home ice in the first 2 rounds. That's ideal. That is what we would really love because the Griffins playing at home right now are just unreal. I mean, at home, they're the second best team in the division. They're 19-6 in 31 games at home. They're 19-6-4, I should say.
What are we on the road?
On the road in 29 games, we are 12-12. 12-3.
Ooh. I mean, I know we went on that 8-game losing like road game streak. So
the fact that we're a 500 team on the road after the way they started the season on the road is just, again, credit to this team for what they've been able to turn around and do. But at the same time, yeah, I'd much rather the boys be at home by far. So, man, every game still matters. Every game still matters. Like, you know, we talked briefly. Carter Gylander was signed and assigned to Grand Rapids. He was signed to his entry-level deal and got an amateur tryout in Grand Rapids, right? I don't think he plays a game in Grand Rapids until everything is fully set in stone. He could play one of the last games of the season if everything's locked in, but until then, nothing's going to change in net. I know people are like, oh, call Kosa up and we can put him in that. No, that's not how this works, folks. It's not. I hate to break it to you, but we'll see what happens there. I don't know, man. There's a lot's going to happen in these next few weeks.
I mean, I think that the goalie schedule for this week, I think they talked about Husso coming back this week. I think he gets a conditioning stint in Cleveland. I
disagree with that 100%.
Here. Not in Cleveland, but here in GR.
Here. I don't think that happens this week.
So you think Husso goes on the road with them in Chicago?
I can see that.
They play Friday in Chicago.
I don't know what the Wings are doing when it comes to goalies right now. I really don't.
I don't think they know.
I don't think they know either. I'm not going to lie to you. Husso starting versus Cleveland scares the crap out of me.
Well, you got...
Because if there's a team that's going to find a way to get the luckiest bounce in the world and beat a goalie in their conditioning stint, it's Cleveland.
Yeah, but the last time he was out, he got the shutout. So
cool, that's great. I don't know. Honestly, if there's a game you want an NHL caliber goaltender in
Milwaukee
to start, it's the Milwaukee game on the 30th.
Okay.
Yes, it's on the road, but I would prefer that to be the conditioning game if there's going to be a conditioning game.
It's probably the closest one to NHL ready.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, who did he play when he did his conditioning game down here? Was it Chicago?
I don't remember.
Whoever he played, it wasn't much of a challenge. Remember, he wasn't tested too much.
It was like 14 shots.
If we're gonna condition Husso, he should be tested a little bit.
Yeah, so he's not injured right away.
Yeah, please. Please. Good Lord. Alex Lyon needs a nap. Let him have a day off, please. But outside of that, man, to wrap up this past stretch, I know this was a weird segment with these games because we had so many to throw in here at once. But just final thoughts from you over the Griffins' last 3 games, the 2 Manitoba and the Rockford one, as they come back home to face Cleveland this Wednesday.
So the thing that always makes me nervous, especially after last year, because I had a lot of PTSD, was we used like 48 players last year. We have reduced that substantially, but you lose your best forward. Jonathan Berggren gets called up. He's still with the Wings somewhere, I guess. Nobody knows where, but because he's not in the lineup. So I was expecting a little bit of a dip in offensive production, and I thought Matt Luff played really well. I really want to spotlight him. Even on Tuesday, we didn't touch much on the game, but he had the most compete. And even like the little bit of the game that I saw last night, he had to compete. He's driving the lines. Then you lose Simon. He gets called up. That's a huge piece for our defense. He's our best defenseman. And then you slot Redeem in, boom. There's no drop off in play. There hasn't been. Like, the team is still buzzing. The team is still playing. The team is still figuring out ways to win. That this is all good. You would expect maybe a huge drop. We got to figure out. The team's got to regel. But it's continued to go on like a business, plug and play, plug and play. Steve did this fantastic. I'm comfortable with the team that we have moving forward this year.
Way more comfortable than last year.
And I think more players are getting better too. Like, you see Elmer progressing, you see Marco progressing, you see Matt Luff progressing well. Cross Hannes, I guess I'll throw him in here for you.
I mean, he's again, like you said, I think we joked about this last episode or 2 episodes ago. He's going to be the guy like it's just slowly figuring out now the playoffs coming. He's going to blow the freaking doors off the building. Like, that's exactly what's going to hopefully happen with him. I can see it. And like you mentioned, Elmer, like, we didn't even get to touch on it too much because we're trying to cram so many recaps into one episode here, but his play just continues to get better and better and better. And I'm very, very happy with his production as of late. I know we mentioned it later in our guest spot, but since January 16th, not having more than 2 games in a row without points, like, that's the consistency we're looking for. Now, how do we lower that to, no more than 1 game in a row without points, right? Get that level of consistency out of him, then he's probably gone. But at the same time, like, he's bringing the aggression, he's bringing his skill set to the table. I really like what he's been doing lately.
And Dom Shine, like you mentioned in the guest spot, like, he's climbed up to second in points or second in goals.
Second in points on the team. No, you're right. Second in points.
So, like, his place, like, everybody's moving forward. You worry about peaking too early with the point streak, but I don't want to say we peaked too early. I think we're still gelling. We're still coming together as a team.
This team hasn't peaked yet.
Yeah, I don't
this
think
team hasn't found like their absolute top, like, best performance yet. Like, there's still room to grow, which is insane. Yeah. We're almost to the playoffs, and this team is still growing and getting better. Like, the rest of the league should be concerned about this team, especially when they hit the playoffs.
Unless you're Hershey.
Dude, what Todd Nelson has done with that team is just ridiculous. Do you know their record?
No, but I see their goalie has had 7 shutouts, and that's
62 games played, 46 wins, 11 losses, 0 overtime losses, 5 shootout losses.
Jesus, they're so
they've had 11 regulation losses on this standing sheet for a very long time. It's ridiculous, just to put it at that. So I don't even know. 97 points on this. The next closest team in the league points-wise right now is Coachella at 85, which 60 games played, 38 wins, 13 losses, 5 overtime, 4 shootout. Like, what? And these are the two teams that faced each other in the finals last year and the top of the league again this season. But don't look now. I think Grand Rapids could make some noise.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them up against one of those teams. That's why I wish we played more out of conference, out of division games. God dang it. Like, where do we really measure up?
Yeah.
But as we know, wrap up the weekend, we head into Wednesday here against Cleveland, a team that we've struggled with this season. They have some magic voodoo witchcraft over us. I don't know what it is. I don't want to know. But they're hurting right now. They're in a weird spot, man. So they're 4-6 now in their past 10. They're on a 3-game losing streak. Yep, 3-game losing streak. And their roster has been absolutely decimated by the Columbus Blue Jackets right now. I really don't understand what that organization is doing. And when I say completely decimated by that organization, I mean the fact that players that are called up, Trey Fix-Wolansky, Jake Christensen, Brandon Gaunce, and Carson Meyer, and Mikhail Pythia, that is 5 of your top 6 in scoring are all with the Blue Jackets right now. Mentioned there's Juracek's up there too. There's a couple other guys. They have just picked apart the Monsters roster for a team that is not going to make the playoffs. I do not understand what is going on.
So I think their focus is more on, it's not developing at the AHL level, it's more of developing at the NHL level. So I think their fans are more of banging on the table of just bring these guys up. We're not going to make the playoffs. Get them the experience. Burn the ELCs. Burn the NHL games before the contracts. Get them out there. Let's see what we got. And that's the only thing I could think of. Where I don't think it's smart. I hate that aspect. I hate that position. It's not something that I believe in, and it's not just me saying that because we covered the Grand Rapids team, the AHL level. But it's a monster problem.
Yeah, I mean, our friend Elaine Shercliffe, who covers this team, I feel bad for her because it's wild to me. I don't understand what is going on. Like, just looking at their call-ups right now through Elite Prospects and just like the amount of call-ups between March 9th, that's when Fix-Wolansky got called up. There's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 call-ups from the Monsters in that time frame. Only one of them has been sent back down, which is the one that Columbus and Cleveland fans were so mad about, is they called up Juracek right before a Monsters game for him to sit and not play, and then sent right back down. Like, I know we're mad that Bergey's just sitting, but there's circumstances to that. Like, he plays one more game, we don't get him back at all. Like, that's a whole new, level of decision-making that has to be made, right? But to just pull Juracek over, fly him out to play and not play, and then send him right back down. I guess Monsters fans are happy, but
maybe his alarm clock didn't go off. Maybe they lost power. I don't know if if you're new to the show, it's a callback to Trey Fix-Wolansky when he got called up and missed the alarm. It got sent right back down. So who knows what's going on the inside? Maybe he missed the bus. He sent him back.
I don't know. To be facing a Monsters team that's missing that many pieces, you can only hope that Grand Rapids figures it out. But again, Cleveland is Cleveland, and they're going to Cleveland.
Well, it's not a Wednesday for us, so I mean, hopefully we can extend our winning Wednesday.
Yeah, please, let's extend the winning Wednesday streak. Not for any selfish ticket reasons at all. I don't know what you're talking about. But no, that's what's coming up. Yeah. So outside of that, before we jump into our special guest here, which we didn't even preview yet, we're going to send it over to DraftKings. But then after that, we'll jump into our guest spot here with the Hockeytown Rundown podcast, which is a not newer, but up-and-coming Red Wings podcast that we've been able to connect through online and everything. And Nick kind of connected us with them. And that was a fun interview, right?
Yeah, we flowed well with the boys. So Hockeytown Rundown, they just redid a whole rebrand, relogo, resound. If you haven't checked them out, check them out through Spotify and through YouTube. But yeah, everything flowed well. It was good to have those guys on, and I mean, we're always looking to collaborate and try and to bring in the Wings organization guys and give them the aspect of the Griffins organization too. So
Yeah. So with that, Nick, go read the ad.
no.
Yes.
We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. With Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat all back and ready from the All-Star game, you've got good choices to make bets on them. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code THPN. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code THPN. The crowd is yours. Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369. In Connecticut, help know for problem gambling, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Will Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. cdkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Welcome back to Hockeytown West Podcast. So we've got the guys from Hockeytown Rundown with us today, and we just kind of want to get a little update from them with our players. We've been loaning a couple players up to the Wings this week, and so we wanted to get an update from them. Simon, one of our best defensemen, and then also Jonathan Berggren, who's up there as well for the past 2 weeks now. I think it's been so. I mean, the Griffs are looking good without him. We'd obviously love to have him still here, but I want to, hand the floor over to Hockeytown Rundown, and we'll start with Zach.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for allowing us to come on here. We definitely appreciate it. And it's been a long time coming, honestly. I remember us reaching out to each other around this time last year, and we were trying to get things figured out, but we were both just starting out, right? And so it's been a long time coming, but we appreciate y'all for having us on. Yeah, my name is Zach. One of the hosts here at Hockeytown Rundown, just living my beautiful life here with my two doggos and living in Holy Land, Toledo. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to Derek and Carla.
Well, boys, it's good to see you guys here. Thanks for letting us on. I'm over here pretty much south of you guys, down in Kalamazoo. So I'm kind of in a nice little mixture between the Grand Rapids Griffins and Detroit area. So I get the fun mixture of both. Unfortunately, I don't get to watch enough Grand Rapids Griffins, so that's what I got you guys for. So it's great. So thank you.
I guess I'm all alone over here in Canada, man. You guys are all over there across the pond. I'm in Windsor, not too far away from all you guys. But Nick, Brandon, thanks for having us on. We're really excited to be here and really excited to kind of get your brain power on the Griffins and how they can potentially make the Wings better. And obviously, we'd love to give you guys some updates on what we're seeing from the Griffins players that are stepping up in Detroit. So like I said, man, excited to be here. Thank you guys again. And yeah, let's kick this thing off.
I think the best way to kick this one off is to pass this one around the horn. Why is Jonathan Berggren not playing? What is going on? What is your guys' opinion of this whole scenario here? Because I know if he plays one more game, he can't come back without clearing waivers. So I don't know if they're just waiting for that magical game or what's going on. Like, what is your opinion of this?
Honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're being very strategic and cautious with the fact that if he plays one more game, he's got to stay or he's got to clear waivers. We all know, and I'm sure we all would agree, he's not clearing waivers, which would suck for the both of us. It's a little bit of that, but I also think Derek Lalonde is just, I don't know. It's at the end of the day, it's his decision. And I look at David Perron and I see Berggren kind of filling into that role. Perron's kind of regressing, in my opinion, as of late. Although, side note, he did have the leading hits on the team last night for yesterday's game, but I digress. Anyway, believe it or not, I don't know. I feel like they're waiting for something to happen, whether it be injury, whether it be Perron to take a little bit of a back seat. because I really don't know what other role he's going to fill. And I'm talking about Berggren. I have no idea what role he's going to fill on the team other than David Perron's. Now, this is just my opinion. I could be way offside on this one, but that's just the way I'm looking at it. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to it's a coaching decision, 100%. And then, of course, I'm sure Steve's got a little bit of pressure on that as well, because you better be very sure, because he's not clearing waivers if we have to send him back down. So that's kind of my take on it. Zach, Derek, what do you guys got?
I mean, if we go off what Steve's saying, like if Bergeron's playing the way they need him to do, he didn't care at all if he got up to waivers. He's told us all. Like, it's understandable. Like, he's not playing exactly what we need. He's playing that nice middle six ground right now. Like what you said, Carlo, is pretty much taking that place of Perron down there. But at the same time, is that what the Red Wings need to keep moving forward in the league? I don't know really right now, because obviously we need some more point scorers. And since he's been up, he hasn't been doing bad, but he hasn't really made that impact. Again, he came up during that time of our nice little horrific streak without Larkin. I don't know what's up with the Red Wings when we don't have him. I don't want to blame that on anybody, but poor Bergeron came up during that time and didn't really produce as much. So I really don't know if they're going to try to risk waivers, because like you said, Carlo, if he hits waivers, he's gone.
Yeah, we're not talking about a great player. He's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't keep him. Someone's going to want that middle six ground. That's going to be a perfect player for the team. He is NHL ready, but we still just have him down there. So, Zach, show some light for me here. Like, what do you think is happening with this situation?
Your ability to call Berggren Bergeron will never cease to amaze me. I absolutely love it. I wish we had Bergeron on our team, Derek, but going over it, yeah.
John Bergeron. I don't know what's wrong with me.
I get it. You know, you don't want him to go into the waiver aspect, right? Okay, so at this point, for me personally, I'd rather see him flourish down in GRG, right? I really don't understand what the purpose of keeping him up as a healthy scratch is. But looking at the lineup, I mean, you have Austin Zarnik, who's filling a role as the 4C. They push Veleno over onto the wing, right? Great. Okay, maybe Veleno gets a little bit more going, since the experiment of him playing the 2C when Larkin was out wasn't going so well. And then when you had Berggren in there, you know, he looked fine. But even on the power play, you could tell that something was missing. And I don't know if the structure of the two teams are different in that aspect, or if maybe we're just expecting a little too much out of Berggren. To me, I just think it's silly at this point. If you're going to have him up, just send him back down. Let him flourish in Grand Rapids Griffins. Let him go and play in the playoff push there. But much like Carlos said, I don't know if they're waiting for an injury to happen and they're just holding him on until that kind of surfaces. But then it goes back to that he only has one game left. So at this point, just let him go back down. So I hate to say it, I really don't have a good explanation to that. However, I do find it very silly and slightly alarming that we're just allowing him to sit up in the press box for the last couple games, right? Because I want him to get the exposure. I want him to get the feel of what it's like to be in a playoff atmosphere without actually being in the playoffs. And that's what the Red Wings are in right now. We saw it in last night's game against the Nashville Predators when they lost 1-0, and they only lost off of a fluke goal, essentially, right? Where the puck just kind of got lost. Everyone's just kind of sitting there. Rasmussen's doing the devil stare eyes, trying to get them, you know, confused, whatever. And then Petrie just kind of letting it go, you know, it's just really tough and frustrating, honestly, for me. And so, yeah, I'd rather see him move back down if that's what it's going to come down to. So,
yeah.
I think you're on the same, Zach. I think you're on the same page as a lot. Like what me and Brandon have been preaching all year is just patience with Wings fans. And it's funny, as soon as everybody's like, "Oh, Bergie should be up. He should be up. He should be playing. We need him in the top 6 role." And then he goes up, and I feel like everybody kind of piled on him on his first game, and he had a turnover that led to a goal. And then, I mean, that's not great for somebody's confidence. You know, he's coming into this new team. Like, I would say it's a newer team from last year. There's a lot of different players he's playing with, and it's like trying to get comfortable. Going against Vegas was his first game. Turnover leads to a goal. They lose that game. Like, it's so I see that aspect. Derek, you mentioned too, like, I just had it, and I literally just lost that power play. I mean, is that where David Perron has been at? Is he on that power play? Is that the spot you kind of see Bergie trying to flourish in?
I mean, in this case, I would have to say if any position that's going to be filled by him, it would definitely be that spot that Perron has right now. So I can see him definitely excelling in it, especially from what he does down in Grand Rapids. I just wanted to bring that up to the next level. And then, holy crap, our power play is just an ungodly force to reckon with on the first and second line. Like, whoo, who's going to be upset by that?
It's been funny over here is Waddy's been putting the younger guys in those power play roles to be able to get them the points, get them the confidence, and then we really weren't getting anything going. And so then he went back to the veterans being on it, and then it started playing a little bit better, and we saw a little different scheme there. So so I don't know if that's something Lalonde's going to look at as well, of like moving Perron off, putting Bergie in to try to get him going. But you mentioned the waivers thing too, Derek, and if you think, like, I want to kind of get your opinion on it. Do you think if he ends up playing that game this year, he's up with Detroit for the rest of the season? Do you think he resigns with Detroit?
Well, that's a scary thought right now because we all know that the first extension already got dismissed. They said no, but obviously that's something that you can't really look at. Everyone's going to say no to the first offer. That's what you just do because obviously you want to make a little bit more. But I could definitely see Berger. I can see Burgers down there and his company getting a little more on the upset side with how things are going, though. So if I want him to resign, obviously, I think that no one here doesn't. But at the same time, I understand their confusion and probably their upsetness on how the whole situation has been going so far. So I really don't know how that's going to play a part in this. But hopefully going forward, we just make the right decisions and the parties just come to a conclusion that we're all happy with. Even the fans.
To piggyback off of Derek, I mean, he's exactly right. Like, even going to a used car lot or even to a car dealership, you know, you never take that first offer that they're giving to you, right? And that's kind of essentially what Berggren's doing here. Do I believe that there's going to be an extension in place? Personally, I do. I think the Red Wings are going to want to retain him and his value. But it's going to be tough when you're having them sit out night in and night out currently like they're doing, right? And so the thought of him not coming back is a little scary. I think that there's a 75% chance that he will be back, but that 25% is really there, that he could ask for a trade to where he could be in a middle six or a top six position with a different team that has the room for him, because we certainly don't.
Yeah, he's been an interesting aspect because he's been like kind of stuck he's in the weird timeline. He was before Steve, and now you add Patrick Kane, who brings way more value to the team than a younger prospect. But then you're also battling the father time, right? With Patrick Kane and the injury and trying to put Bergie in to fill that role too. But and I want to touch on one thing with Carlos too. So me and Brandon talked about this, is David Perron's contract is up this year.
Yeah.
Do you see him resigning?
You know what, man? It's such a hard thing to think about because when I look at David Perron and I kind of try to map the value he brings to the team, he's unreal at protecting the puck. I really don't think there's anybody better. Like, the guy is a gamer, and it's really hard to get a guy like that off the puck. So if we're going to have a conversation in comparing Burgers to Perron, I'm not confident, and maybe you guys can answer this, but I'm not confident Burgers can protect the puck as well as Perron. Mind you, Burgers hasn't paid his dues yet. He's still a prospect. He's still got a lot of ways to go. I'm not saying that it's not possible. It certainly is. But I think that's what the organization's probably looking at is, do we want a puck protector on the power play to give Kane, Larkin, DeBrincat those opportunities to stay in the O-zone and put the pucks on net and hopefully score? Or do we not sign David Perron and Berggren comes in full time? So it's like, how do you make that decision? So that's where I'm like, I really don't know if Perron's going to re-sign. I'm sure he would want to, and I think if he does, it will be for a lot less of a AAV, just because, again, I do think he's regressed. But then you have to look at the entire makeup of the team and the chemistry within this locker room and this group to determine, do we want to go with Perron or are we going to take that chance on Berggren? I really think that that's what it's going to come down to. So in the offseason, if we find out that Perron is leaving, I think that's kind of our answer that, okay, Berggren's coming up, or at least that contract with Berggren's going to get some more juice added to it, if you will. But is Perron going to resign? Man, I honestly don't know. I really don't know. It's such a rock and a hard place for me because I want Bergeron to come up. You know what I mean? But right now, there's just not that spot for him in the way the lineup slots. But I guess time will tell. In the next, 3-4 months or whatever, we will very much find out. Because Yzerman did mention in his, it was a trade deadline presser that he is not going to waste any time and he's going to get the veterans some answers right away. Because he understands they're at that age where they have like small kids, they have families, they don't want to know last minute where they're moving or if they're moving. So I expect to see some movement on all that stuff like really short after the season ends. So I will see. But what do you think though, Nick? Like, are you kind of thinking the same thing I am? Like, do you think Bergeron is that replacement for Perron? Am I being way too wishful thinking here, or what do you think?
I mean, we looked a lot with like Robbie Fabry as being in that kind of role of him replacing just because of he's more of a shooter, he's more of a scorer. Perron's going to bring the hustle, the grind, the grit to the lineup on that end. So I think Bergie could do a better role, maybe a little bit cheaper than Robbie Fabry, in like maybe a bottom 6 role instead of that top 6. And like anytime Fabry takes a hit, everybody's like a little bit more deep breath, just like Zach did.
Last night's game when he took that hit too. I mean, everyone just
I thought he was done.
Well, the other thing I want to just throw in real quick, because I want to get Brandon's opinions on this too, is maybe I'd have to go back and look at the tape, but maybe Bergie's dealing with a small injury. Maybe they're setting him out just to get him going. I don't know. I'm just there's got to be other reasons besides, like, I understand the strategic aspect of putting him up there to be able to get him into a game, rebuild his confidence, get him acclimated to the team and practice and everything like that. But like the coaching decisions have been very weird lately with Sprague sitting out, Bergie sitting out. So I don't know. I can't watch every Wings game. I'd love to be there at every Wings game too if I could. But I'm just throwing things out there, and that crazy flu is going around. So maybe he's out with the flu. So I mean, these are other aspects that could come into play instead of him just sitting to sit.
I mean, that's what I was saying. That entire losing streak was that everybody had the flu. That's all it is. Once they get back Larkin, the flu's gone. It's okay.
I mean, we went through that early in the season in Grand Rapids too. There was a weird bug that went around that locker room, and they didn't have as much of a falling off as the Red Wings did during that time, but it was ugly.
Those games didn't matter as much either, though.
No,
at the beginning of the season as they do now for the Wings.
No, exactly. And I think with Bergie, he's still a defensive liability to me at that level for some reason. In the AHL, after he came down from that last call-up, he looked really good and on both sides of the puck. And that's something that everyone had criticized him for. And yeah, he did go up there, make that small turnover, whatever. Then he drew a penalty right after. I think everyone forgets about that piece. He did, go out there and just grind and trying to figure it out. He's going to take more time. And I think at this point, he just needs to end up back in Grand Rapids. If he's going to sit in the press box, whether that's strategically so he can learn the game or not, I don't think he's gaining any value in that. These games for the Griffins are going to become high pressure here really soon. And I think he needs to be a part of that and adjust to the lineup. I mean, there was small changes here too, with Radim Šimić getting added. Like, we need everybody to be on the same page, because to transition to the next guy, I don't think he's coming back. And that'd be Simon Edvinsson, at least till playoff time if the Wings get bounced. Edvinsson looks like he has established himself as I'm not leaving unless you're going to keep drag me out of here kicking and screaming.
Yeah, he's been a breath of fresh air for us, honestly. And the one thing, the first call-up that he had earlier this year, I love what he can do with his stick. His reach is outrageous, right? But I felt like that he was depending on that a little too much. This time around, he is a lot more physical, and that's what I wanted from him. So there's a huge difference, night and day difference from the first time earlier this year to now when he was called up. Yeah, I think you're exactly right there, Brandon, that it's up to him, and he's forcing the hand on Steve Yzerman, Lalone, saying like, hey, I'm not leaving until, whatever happens, I get injured or I just make a complete fool out of myself, right? And so far, he has looked absolutely fantastic, even being on pairings with, whether that's Ben Sherrod or Jeff Petrie, where we really don't like Jeff Petrie. We kind of hope that, whether if that's Johansson or Wallander can come up and maybe replace that spot for him, but someone's got to give here eventually. But yeah, we are very, very happy with what Simon Edvinsson has done. I mean, we joked about it, right? I told you guys need to send him up here as soon as possible, right? But yeah, we're more than happy to give him back to you guys, but I think that this is a great experience for him because he's most certainly going to be on the Red Wings next season, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, from what I don't think he's going to play, it's just like a whole new him out there. It's great to see, and especially like I've said in our podcast, like if you're going to make mistakes out there in the D, I'd rather see our prospect who's coming up make them other than a 34, 35-year-old veteran who's getting paid $5 million to make this mistake. Like, let the man learn, and then he gets better, instead of having the people that already learned and are failing us that aren't going to get better keep playing. It's like, at this point, I just want to see him up all the time, but I understand the fact that he still needed in Grand Rapids as well, but I digress. I don't know which one is better at the moment.
I mean, he's definitely needed here, but everyone was like wondering what Steve was doing when he got rid of Kostin and all we got back was Radim Šimić. And we've seen him now for 2 games in Grand Rapids, and he's just an older Simon Edvinsson. He's not as flashy. He's not as aggressive, but he skates just like him. He's calm just like him. It's really weird because I haven't noticed Simon's absence since Šimić has stepped into the lineup. So it really all that trade did was open the door for Simon. I think that's what Steve was trying to do without saying, this is what I'm trying to do. So it makes sense to me, and I'm very happy with it. Yes, I want to see Simon back here for the playoffs, obviously, and there's no waivers concerns with him. And he can play as many games, I think, as he wants right now, and there's no concerns. But if the Wings, when they make the playoffs, I'd like to see Simon getting that experience up there too, much rather than over Jeff Petrie or anybody else really on the back end there outside of Mo at this point. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, no kidding. I thought the exact same thing, Brandon, when Steve Eisner made that trade, and I kind of looked at that return. I'm like, this really seems like a plug for an Edvinsson call up, and then a few days later, the call up happens, which was obviously very exciting. But I mean, if you guys can try to watch the game recaps, the way he is like coaching on the ice and telling players where to be so he can move up in a lane to block a shot. I'll be honest, I was not expecting that to happen several times. One time I saw it, I'm like, this is a great sign. The next game, he got more ice time. He does it again, and you can see his communication with his line mates. It's unreal, telling people where to be positionally so he can go and attack a lane and get down and block a shot. It's incredible. He is unreal. I really don't see him going down. Not as long as. Sorry, I kind of feel bad saying that. I just don't see it happening because he's adding such good value to this defensive core that is disastrous. I mean, we're talking about fundamental defensive collapses here, gentlemen. And with Simon Edvinsson, he slots them a little bit differently. He allows Lalonde to balance out the plus minuses a little bit within these D-men that we have. And we're seeing now a way more sound and structured defensive unit as a result of Simon Edvinsson. So big props to him. I'm like super pumped, if you can't tell, about Simon Edvinsson because he's just been a real big breath of fresh air. I think Zach, you put it really, really well.
I love that like breakdown that you just gave there, Carlo. And you want to know where you learned that from?
Tell me.
Our big goalie, Sebastian Cossa. As soon as you started telling us this, I saw Brandon and I both leap forward. We're like, all right, we saw him do this, and he makes sure that the goalie can see the puck because he was screening Cossa on a lot of goals. And Cossa's like, you got to stop. This is where I need you to go. And it just translates to the higher level. So to see that, to hear that was like, that's a huge piece. I love that. I love that piece. I know Brandon want to say something or somebody.
No, that was the right on. Like seeing that communication with Cossa this year, then obviously with the rest of the team is that built. Like that's not something he did last year. And yeah, he got his little brief call up before the Christmas break this year. There was really nothing there. The team was all out of sorts when he got that. But everyone said that we were over-ripening Simon, having him down here the rest of the season. And clearly he had a lot more skills that he needed to learn. And the leadership skill was the biggest piece I think he's learned on this Griffins team. And I think Dan Watson's done a good job putting him in that position. And clearly it's translating well. So I love to hear that that's what you're seeing on the ice up there. That's fantastic. And yeah, Zach, I think you had a piece you wanted to add.
Yeah, so that was, you actually took it right out of my mouth. That was going to be my question, was like, what has Dane Watson been expecting out of him? For a while, it seems like we were hearing not so much about Simon Edvinsson, but a lot about Albert Johansson. And so I believe there was Win Wheel podcast where they did interviews with some Grand Rapids players and asking, who's the most underrated? Who's this one player that you really like? And each one of them brought up Albert Johansson. So I didn't know if that was a slide against Simon Edvinsson, maybe because everyone already knows what to expect out of him and what he can bring. But yeah, just really wanted to hear from you guys, what has attributed to the change from Simon Edvinsson from what we've seen last year or even right before Christmas, how you brought up Brandon. What is the key difference here from then to now that has made him into the stud that he currently is for the Red Wings?
I mean, I think the biggest difference is a defensive-minded coach. I mean, you have Dan Watson, who was a defenseman. You have Brian Lashoff as the assistant coach now, who obviously was a great defenseman. And I think he's learned a lot from both of them, but he's been given he's let off the reins a little bit. Ben Simon last year, he sheltered Albert Johansson. Albert Johansson spent third pairing minutes every game, never got moved up, and that's just why you never really heard anything about him until this season. And now he's been consistent second pairing, getting those minutes, and everyone's like, oh, wow, we do have something here. That's just because he's been allowed to flourish. And same with Simon. I mean, he's been on that first pairing all season, running the first power play on the Griffins team, just really taking all the minutes he could possibly get that are the high-pressure minutes, really just the Mo Sider of Grand Rapids at that point, getting the toughest minutes on this team and having to learn through that. He's had some defensive woes where we're like, Simon, buddy, what are you doing? And that's something that we were really concerned that was going to translate big time to Detroit. And we haven't seen it yet, thank God. And he's got to go. We understand he's going to learn through those mistakes. He's going to do stupid things down here because sometimes he's just trying to do too much. He likes to push it as far as he possibly can, but at the same time, he's learning in that process. And now that we understand that, it makes more sense. So that's why you hear more about Albert this year, just because he's getting that exposure. And then Simon's just been allowed to, really truly flourish under this coaching staff.
Yeah, one thing that I pulled from you guys a couple episodes back is you guys compared Simon to like Ben Sherratt, if he can get to that ceiling. And I really liked that kind of comparison because you don't want to put too much on the kid. There are times that it's just like Brandon said, he makes a play and you're like, what were you doing there? Like, you just kind of gave up, you turned it over. Like, what are we doing? Like, this guy is not 100% focused all the time. And then there's times where he's taking it from blue line to blue line and scoring, to put it in overtime or to get that game tying goal. Like, he's tried to make up for the mistakes. So it just like Derek, you said, like, you want to see these prospects up there. You want to see them make mistakes. You'd rather pay for that and get them the learning time. So, and I agree to a point because then you see it with Bergie, who makes mistakes. Then it's like, now he's benched for 2 weeks or who knows why, the Bergie situation. But it's also like, you got to be careful because we saw Jasper Wallstedt moved up to Minnesota and get pounded for 7 goals. And then he hasn't been the same goalie since he's came back. So, and goalies are a little different, but you want to make sure you put these prospects in a good environment where the team is, where they're able to succeed. And if you have to shelter them in some sort of way or point, that's what you need to do. And with Albert, he's really learned and gained that first line minutes with Simon. And what you're going to see from him is a solid defenseman. He's gritty. He's going to, if he needs to punch you in the face, he's going to punch you in the face. But, he plays sound defense. And I could see him up there next year getting a couple games, 9 or 10 games, just to kind of, get his feet wet. I could see him playing for the Wings the next 2 years, though, if it's not earlier. Now, you mentioned Vollander. Give him some time. Let him cook a little bit down here.
Yeah,
we like the guy, but he's sheltered right now. He's getting it together, but he'll be up there soon.
So is that the expectation moving forward? Let's say that Simon Edvinsson does make it to the big club full time. So it's going to be Aljo as the number 1 left-handed defenseman, Wallander as the second left-handed defenseman, right? Do you guys ever put him on the right side? No.
Well, you're forgetting Palika.
Whatever he decides to make the jump too, right? Yeah, exactly. And so the defense,
get ASP.
It's insane how deep we are as a franchise on the defensive end. And so I guess that leads up to the second question, right? Is do you expect either Aljo or Wallander to get traded by the time that they might be NHL ready based on the way that the roster is constructed for the Red Wings now? Because with Ben Chiarot, are we going to keep Jake Wallman when his contract's up in the next 2 years? I have a love-hate for Jake Wallman. These guys can attest to that, but I want to hear from you guys.
I'll let Brandon take that one first. I don't think with Simon, so I'm with you with the I understand that aspect with Jake Wallman on your end there, Zach.
Yeah, I get that too. I don't think you see any of these guys traded, one without the return being just incredible, without getting that 9-game stint, without knowing what they truly have in with these guys. I don't think you see any movement there. I think you're just going to see solid progression over these next few years. So Simon's going to take that step. Albert's going to step into his role. Hopefully a year after that, he takes the same step that Simon did. Hopefully you see Wallander do the same thing over the next couple of years. You got to remember Antituamisto is out there too, and he's shocked us all in Grand Rapids this year. Kind of came in as a guy that we didn't really know what he was going to bring to the table. And obviously he spent some time in North America, so that helped too. But he's someone that you guys definitely want to watch out for. He has a wicked shot. He's the one defenseman on this team that's not afraid to shoot the puck. If it's on his stick, he's going to shoot it. If it gets blocked right away, he's going to pick it back up and he's going to shoot it again. That's just the game that he brings. And dude, if someone touches him, watch out, because he's going to go back and kill him. That's my favorite part about his game. As soon as he's messed with, he will go back at them. He won't go start the stuff, but he'll go finish it. So with those guys, you're just going to see a natural progression, I think, in Grand Rapids over the next couple of years, where there's the blue line's going to be probably 3 or 4 young guys and a couple of veterans that in the AHL mixed with them. They lead them the way. So I don't think you see any crazy trades happen. I know I've said before, if Albert didn't get that shot this season, he's probably going to look elsewhere, because I believe his contract is up this year as well. Mm-hmm. So that is interesting. I mean, he was same draft year as Mo. That's another thing we got to remember. So God, we really hit well in that draft on defensemen. Good Lord. But anyways, I don't think they get traded.
I love how Steve has built this team. So you got to think about this as you've got Kosa here. He's probably another 2-3 years away. You got Trey Augustine behind it. Brandon says too. You got Trey Augustine behind him, who will be here in Grand Rapids in the next 3 to 4 years. You've got Carter Geilander, who just made it to us. You've got all these defensemen that have already been in the system. If everybody, there's no way Steve's going to hit on all these prospects, right? There's just no possible way that all of these guys make it to the NHL. First round pick. I actually looked at this the other day. Travis, our buddy in Toledo, sent me this. 74% of your first round picks make it, and then it drops to 34% in the second, and then 27 in the third. So there's no way, but these guys look so good right now. I want to believe that everybody's going to move up from the back, and then he's just plugging forwards in as he's going. And we do have young forwards. We have Lucas Raymond up there. We have Bergie that hopefully they stay. So, I mean, you've got people moving up, and I love how this is being built up. I mean, it's perfect if everything works out according to plan. But knowing Steve, who knows, And the big trade deadline, rumor was Noah Hannafin. And I'm like, no, he doesn't fit in the timeline based off of where everybody else is progressing and moving up. So,
correct.
You kind of, the thing that I always preach to everybody is patience with this Wings team. You've got to let people develop. You don't want to see Rasmussen, who get called up a little bit too early, or Joe Valeno called up a little bit too early, and now they're really finding the role 3 years into the Wings. These guys all have potential to make it to the NHL. We have a really good young team, but until it gets there, we just all have to be patient. We're not calling Marco Kasper up. We're not calling. I'm on the fence with Carter Mazur right now, but Brandon feels differently on that.
I mean, I've seen glimmers of greatness from Mazur so far, and it took him a while this year to bounce back from his injury that he had in the offseason there. And it wasn't physically he was struggling. It was mentally he was struggling. He just didn't kind of know what to do with the puck, but he's definitely hit the back of the net quite a bit more as of recently. And he's been bounced around the lineup in so many different ways. Dan Watson utilizes him in many different roles with this team. So He's going to take more time. Still, I don't think he's going to bounce as quickly as everyone thought. But at the same time, he's something to keep an eye on there. And I know you didn't know how to mention him with this, but Elmer is someone that should be talked about over the last few games. I'm pretty high on his play lately. He's looked incredible over this last stretch and hasn't actually gone more than 2 games without a point since January 16th. So he's actually been producing a lot more, where you're talking about the beginning of the season going 5, 6, 7 games without a point. So the way he's playing lately, you're seeing aggressive side of Elmer. You're seeing the speed come back. You're seeing the hands that we all know he has, but you're also just seeing the hockey IQ start to really turn on. He's knowing where to place the puck. He's knowing where to go to get the puck. And this new role he's been fit into with being on a line with Matt Luff and Marco Kasper after being buried on the 4th line with Cross Hannes and Amadeus Lombardi for most of the season has really helped him flourish. Seeing him paired with those guys and actually producing, that's a good sign. Now, where he fits into Detroit, I have no clue, but it just gives me hope that there's still something there for him.
Yeah, and I think that's majority of Wings fans, at least a lot of Wings fans, it seems like they just want to call up Soda just for the pure fact of his height alone and his reach, which, okay, we could use that, right? I mean, it was great when we utilized that at the beginning of the season last year when we had, who was that we had Adam Ernie on the same line, I believe it was, and with Sundqvist, like the tree line or whatever, and it's great to see based on what you guys tweet out, right? The videos and all that stuff. That's how I keep up to date with the Grand Rapids Griffins. I mean, what, in your guys' opinion, what do you think that he still needs to work on? Or I guess also it's a 2-parted question. What has he done to show that he could be ready to make that next step? While the points might not always be there, but what can he attribute and what has he currently attributed to the Grand Rapids all this time that he's been with you guys?
So for me, the biggest question mark for him was consistency. I think that's what we were lacking in him last season when he got sent back down. He never really found how to be consistent at this level. It was weird because he produced consistently at the NHL level for a good period there, and then came to the AHL and couldn't do it. In the whole first half of the season, that was still the big thing. It was kind of like, what did we call him before? Bambi on skates.
Yeah.
That was the best description of his skating. And I think that's one of the things he's worked the most on this season was his skating. It's gotten dramatically better. If he can figure out how to consistently score or get points like he is right now, but be defensively responsible like he's been over the last stretch too, I think as long as he keeps doing that, we're going to see movement with him. That's all he needs to work on. Just be consistent because the skill set is there. And I mean, if he's going to produce in high pressure situations in this second line, I mean, I'm not talking he's going to ever be a second or maybe even third liner in Detroit. I think he'd be a great 4th line player in Detroit that could be bumped to the 3rd line when needed. And he brings an aspect on the penalty kill that I think is really underlooked because of his size.
I think like Brandon touches on it, the consistency. I mean, it was very weird. And I think gone are the days where you see prospects come straight, like be drafted and go right to the Detroit Red Wings. And I think people need to realize that like Lucas and Mo were kind of the exceptions. You need to give them time. You're not going to see Elmer, you're not going to see another situation where I'm going to say this and then you'll see Nate Danielson plays 9 games next year in the beginning of the season for the ELC. But Albert he needs that confidence, I think. And it's just getting, he just needs to continue to skate. I mean, when he's skating and he's skating hard and he's going, like once he gets that motor going, you can't stop him. What we'd both like to see more out of him is him being utilized in front of the net to screen the goalies. If he could get those deflections, be like that Johan Franzen type player, like that's what I'm looking for. Just he's a little bit taller. He's got better hands than Johan did. And I think he can score more. I mean, with all of those tools, he has the tools. He just needs to put it together. And he's getting that confidence. He's playing with better players with Marco and Matt Luff, and that's helping him elevate his game. So I think it's just getting that consistency. He may need another year or at least half a year here in GR before he gets that call up of the emergency call up kind of situation. Because we kind of learned that this week too, that there's only 3. You only get 3. Or you get only 3 call-ups throughout the year, but emergencies you have unlimited.
Correct. Yeah, and going back to my point too, like a lot of people want him to come up and succeed. You know, a lot of things that people were saying, you know, we were hoping that he could be the next Tage Thompson, right? It doesn't look like that's going to be the case based on what you guys are saying and what you guys have seen. Could that still happen? Anything is possible in the NHL, right? But it doesn't really seem like he has that some killer instinct.
Yeah, I think there's something. I don't think it's going to reach a Tage Thompson level by any means, but I definitely think there's something still there. And the killer instinct, honestly, has started to show more recently. I'm seeing the aggression there, but I'm seeing the confidence. And that's where I think he was lacking the most. He didn't have confidence in his play for the first half of the season. And something has sparked to where he's probably one of the most confident Griffins on the ice right now. Just the things he's trying to do and succeeding at doing is putting him kind of above everybody else when he has the puck on his stick right now. He's easily one of the top 3 players on the team with the absence of Berggren, Edvinsson, and Zarnik right now.
So is that, I think we talked about that on a recent episode. Maybe we didn't. Maybe I heard it on a different podcast. But is that not just to claim it on or put the name on Swedish players or people, but does that kind of come with, you know, where you used to play, that they're not as physical, and now that they move over to North America, that they're starting to learn that I can't just rely on my defense. I actually need to have the grit to back up my game.
Yeah, I think that physicality does shock people when they initially come into this league. The AHL is a rough and tough league. It's insane how tough it actually could be. And I think it does shock some of these younger guys when they come over. Elmer, I think, thought he'd be able to walk in and push everybody around, and clearly that was not the case right away. And now that he's figuring that out, it's good to see. And I think as we see more and more of these guys come over, hopefully that's kind of a focus early on in their development. Like, hey, let's make sure we're getting them ready on the physical side of things. Because like a couple guys in this team, if they put on some more size, they're going to be absolute wrecking balls out there. Once Marco Kasper gets a little bit bigger, he's going to be an absolute unit. And like, you know, we talk a lot about Amadeus Lombardi because, you know, he's a late round pick and we see the potential there, but he's got to get bigger. And as soon as he gets bigger, some magic could happen.
I would say, boys, we've been running on these guys that are attacking the pucks the entire time. I just wanted to ask you a few questions about the guys that are defending the puck from going into the net. That one first-round pick, Kosa, looks like he's kind of been progressing the same way that the Griffins have been here over the whole year. What have you guys been thinking about that? Starting off rough, but then progressively just getting better and better, then blowing out the waters? What's going on here?
Derek's been wanting Kosa ever since the preseason, basically. So that's why he brings that up. But that's a great question.
That is fair. I'm probably the biggest Sebastian Kosa supporter out there. I believe in this kid, and I think he's got the full tool set that's going to fit the expectations that we all have for him. What we've seen happen with him is we saw him, you know, he went to Toledo last season, right? And started off a little rough there, trying to figure out his way down there. Got his random call up to Grand Rapids last year, got his first win in his first game, and we're all like, okay, we see it. And then goes to Chicago and just gets absolutely lit up. I think it was like 5 or 6 goals that he let in really early on. It was rough. So everyone's thinking, oh God, here we go. And he goes down to the ECHL and still struggles. And then the second half of the season hits, and the guy becomes a literal brick wall. The goalie room between him and John Lethman in Toledo last year was absolutely insane. It's so crazy to me to think of like the numbers that they put up together. But obviously the second half of the season is what it took for Kosa to really figure out his way in that league. Same thing in Grand Rapids this year. He came in and, mind you, the team in front of him at the beginning of the season was terrible. They had no clue what they were doing. They were not gelling. It was just being left hung out to dry all the time, you know, giving up 18 shots against just the first period. Like some really ugly times for him to really try to figure out his way in the AHL. But as the team figured it out, he's definitely figured it out as well. And you can just see, like, he's the most calm goaltender I've ever seen in net. Like, it's a calming presence when he starts in a game. Nick's looking at me weird, but when I see Hutch is on the starter sheet for that night, I'm like, oh boy, this could go one of two ways. It could be great. It could be terrible. I see Coase starting now, and I'm like, oh, okay, the boys have a chance to win tonight. He might. I can't remember, Nick, and you'd have to correct me here. I don't remember the last time Coase has let in more than 3 goals in a game. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time.
Like he's really figured it out, and he knows how to play the position so well. It was just taking his athleticism and translating it into goaltending, because he's an athletic freak. I don't know if you guys know that. Like he's a freak of nature at this point. And one of the things that Rupe Koivunen, the goaltending coach in Grand Rapids, has really prided him on was getting more calm. There was a lot of times in the first half of the season where he'd overstep his boundary just a little bit, sliding back to the left or the right. He'd just overstep that and get himself out of position. He's really figured out how to keep himself in there and also just stay calm when there's chaos in front of him. And he also just eats pucks. Rebound control with him is something that's dramatically improved over the last stretch as well.
I mean, they drafted him knowing he was raw. He was going to take some time to develop. I want to see him again next year. We just saw probably one of the fewer times that he's been back-to-back goalie, where he's taken back-to-back games, this week. There's been a few other instances, but it's not been very frequent. So it's something for us that we want to keep an eye on. But he's got a 15-game point streak, and this ties the franchise record right now. His last 17 games, he's 11-1-5. He's at 2.02 goals against, 0.926 save percentage so far. So like he's
on fire.
He's making the moves that he needs to make. I feel like when he did an interview in the beginning of the season, and he said it was a big jump for him to go from juniors to the E to Toledo. Like it was a huge adjustment, and we saw that with him in the beginning of the season. And that Toledo team was good. Now he comes here, just like Brandon said, it takes time for him to gel. You have a brand new coaching staff. You have I don't want to say brand new, but brand new to Grand Rapids. Then you get brand new defensemen. You're merging this whole team, and it's gelling together at the right time. And you see Kosa's taking that. The only reason I say Brandon says it's the calmest goalie he's ever seen, but he doesn't watch enough Trey Augustine. So because that kid is extremely calm in net. If anybody watched the Michigan State game last night.
Yeah. I know. I see what you mean by that there. One thing that you got to remember with Kosa is like I know everyone wants him in Detroit. Everybody does. Trust me. I want to see him get there myself. I think we had to see him earn that starter spot in Grand Rapids. Dan Watson doesn't tell people who the starting goalie is. He splits it dead even almost the whole season. Sometimes you'll see back-to-back games and you go, okay, he's leaning towards that hot hand right now. Next season, I think you'll see him officially take the starter's crease in Grand Rapids and get a majority of games for sure, depending on who's also partnered with him in net. We don't know if it'll be Hutchinson again or who it will be. That's a whole big question mark for the offseason for this team. And I think next season is where you could see if the Wings have an injury in goal, Kosa would be that guy who gets called the backup at that point. Then the following season, I think you see, okay, Kosa is the backup in Detroit. And then we start to go from there. I think that's the trajectory we want to see from him. And if that's exactly where it goes, that's perfect in the development of this prospect.
I mean, that's the big thing everyone has to remember, too, is goalies are completely different than the regular NHL player. They take many more years to develop their skills and whatnot. And even though he's up in the AHL now, playing 30-some games a year, that's getting pretty close to NHL level. But at the same time, we pretty much want to see him at that starter right, hitting 50, 60 games. That way he is fully ready for being able to called up. There's an injury, like you guys said. He gets thrown in. He's used to it. He's not going to be freaking out, having to play a large amount of games. But
yeah,
I do believe he does have some more time, like you guys think, too. He needs to develop a little bit more. Like, he had a great half of this year. I'm one of those fans that wants him up right away. I won't lie about it. Zach already knows this. He's over there giggling because I won't stop talking about it.
I do too.
But I understand. I understand the concept. I understand I got to wait. He's just hopefully going to get better and better, and he's just going to be producing the way he did this half season for the next 2 seasons for you guys. So that's all I'm trying right now.
My biggest fear is they rush him and we end up with a situation like Minnesota did with Jesper Wallstedt, where they call him up, he gets lit up for 7 goals, they leave him in a game for 7 goals. I don't understand the thought process behind that. He came back to the AHL after that and went from being a top 10 goalie to dropping to 25th, 30th in the ranks in goalie. He's starting to make his climb back up again, which is good to see for him, but that's what happens when you rush a guy who's not ready. And we've seen a lot of goalie prospects in the past get mismanaged with this organization. Like I think of Philip Larson is one that everyone thought he was going to come in and be this incredible goalie. Yeah. He ends up going straight to Grand Rapids. Terrible. Gets down to Toledo. Terrible. and now he's off somewhere else that we don't know. So patience with this guy is going to be key. And I know Nick's laughing at me because he thinks I'm crazy when I say this, but patience with Trey Augustine is going to be important too. I've seen a lot of Michigan State goalies do amazing things at MSU, and then it doesn't translate. I think the last one that really truly translated was Ryan Miller. So yes, I'm a big Trey guy and I want to see him be successful, but at the same time, I'm nervous.
What other questions do you guys have for Grand Rapids wise?
ASP, how many games does he play for Grand Rapids before he's on Detroit?
Follows Mo's path and plays a full season.
Just to get used to the ice over here. Plus, we can buy a couple of his jerseys. Those are going to go so high. That'd be so expensive. But yeah, I think 1 year, I think he's straight up. So anything else? Anything else you fellas have for Grand Rapids? Anything you guys want to plug?
Yeah, real quick. If you had to, I guess, number off, the forwards, because let's be real, the Red Wings don't have a pure superstar prospect in terms of the forwards, right? I mean, if you want to put Berggren there, you can, but in your minds, if you had to number them like 1 through 5, or even do like the top 3 that you believe will make the jump next, and where they might be able to fit in, who would those 3 or 5 players be in said order?
From Grand Rapids or just overall?
Let's just say from Grand Rapids currently right now.
Okay. I'm going to go. Oh man, this is tough. Forwards. So let's go Marco Kasper. Let's go Carter Mazer. I'm going to be honest, that's kind of it right now. I mean, again, Amadeus could make that step if he gets, some more size there. Again, the tool set that kid has is unreal. So I fully believe that he has the potential to do it, but he's got to figure out his way down here. I don't think you see him even crack that NHL conversation probably for 2 or 3 more seasons. So Marco Kasper, I would say, is my top ranked one at this point in time, and then Mazer following up there. And honorable mention to Cross Hannes because he's been figuring it out lately, but something's still kind of lost in that prospect right now, unfortunately. So I'd say between him or Elmer, throw him in the third. Why not?
Okay. What about you, Nick?
So we don't have a whole lot of forwards that are prospects to be called up. I mean, you guys have Sarnik, who's not really a prospect, but he's coming from the Griffins organization. But if you're looking at the next 5, I would have to put Marco as probably one of the top, just like Brandon, Carter Mazer. You got Elmer. I would say Amadeus is probably in that top 5. Cross is always so wishy-washy. I don't want to. I had him on there, but then Brandon took him because I know he's Brandon's favorite player. So I don't. We really don't have that many. Like, we've had a lot of people be moved. Like, I had a big scope on Kirill Tatayev, and he went back to Russia. We still have Buchnikov, who's in Russia. Yep. We have Red Savage, who's at MSU. That's another forward. Nate's still in juniors. I'm just trying to think of somebody. The Dower Nilsson twins or brothers. Yep. They're still overseas.
You can throw another name at you, Nick.
Yeah,
because he's in Toledo. Alexander Doucette. There is something there.
I was going to ask that question. I was totally going to ask that as a follow-up.
He sounds like he's doing really good down there.
He is. He's having an incredible season down there. I mean, just trying to figure out. I mean, again, this was a random signing that we had out of the queue. And of course, everybody tears it up in the queue. Goalies have a tough time over there. Yep. And the numbers he put up there were unreal. But I mean, talk about his time in Toledo's 47 games, 16 goals, 19 assists for 35 points. He's a plus 12 on their team right now. He's in the top 10 in scoring on that team. There's something there. What it translates to as he moves up, I don't know. He's definitely a long-term look, but what he's been able to do down there is he's become a key part of their lineup. And being able to do that first season on a team down there whose the forwards are already very well established. I mean, Brandon Hawkins down there, if you guys aren't familiar, he's 84 points in 63 games. Like, he's an unreal hockey player for that organization. Well, it won't ever translate to the AHL or NHL, unfortunately, but I think Doucette's someone just to kind of keep an eye out for over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm really excited for the one good news out of the losing streak is that we fell into the Tej Ginla race for draft. So
I've been hooting and hollering his name for quite some time now. I want me some Tej, dude. I really do. Not just for the name, but just for the way he plays. I mean, it is just he's a freak out there.
That's kind of the guy that we need for the organization. So that's I think Steve now focuses a little bit more on the forwards for the next couple, just to be able to get some more to fill the cabinet on that side. But I mean, defense, we're solid for a little bit. So
yeah, I guess that was going to be my follow-up question. Is that the biggest need that you can see Steve Yzerman approaching? Is that what you guys would want on the Grand Rapids Griffins side? Following up with the first question, since it seems like that. Or it doesn't seem like it. It's well known that Grand Rapids or just the Red Wings pipeline right now, we don't have that young stud that plays left or right wing anymore, right? I mean, that was Lucas Raymond and I guess Jonathan Berger. And I mean, you could throw Mazer in there and everyone else you guys called, but there's no one else really that can just take over the reins like that and just you can plop into the top six for you guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be nice to have something like that, something on the scoring side. I mean, defense was addressed in comparison to last season. Just looking at the stats, Grand Rapids had 255 goals against last season. And this year, as it stands right now with, 12 games left, only 170 goals against. Defensively, they figured things out.
Yeah.
Offensively, we're at 180 goals for this season. We could use a few more of those. It's good to see a positive goal differential down here. That was one thing we didn't see last year by any means. But some more scoring, some more, I don't want to say center depth, but
yeah.
We can't track faceoffs in the AHL. That's one thing that we hate. They don't give us those stats. You can't find them anywhere. I'd really be curious to see what Marco Kasper and Amadeus Lombardi are doing in the faceoff dot because I feel like it's not good. If I'm being honest, I feel like it's pretty bad. So that does concern me as things translate into the future. Is our faceoffs going to get better?
Yeah, I mean, the faceoffs has always been a concern for us, and being able to see that's correlates right to our power play. We feel, and also our overtime losses. So seeing that, if we could get those stats, that'd be fantastic. But I mean, we have Nate Danielson. Who knows where he ends up next year? I think he's going to be here based off of size.
I believe so too.
And he's a center, so I mean that's going to just fill in either Sarnik, Kasper, or I'm blanking on our other center right now. Try to find those wingers. We've been just putting our veteran guys on that wing side to be able to suffice. But yeah, we need scoring. We need the wingers to be able to drive a line like somebody like Lucas Raymond. We'd like to see it from Elmer. I mean, that would be a perfect spot for him. But we saw a lot of it from Berge, really. And without him, we've still been able to put up points, able to get wins. But I was nervous losing him because I was like, who's going to fill that role? And Matt Luff has really turned in and taken that spot for us. Doesn't score the same way, but he provides a different aspect to the team and still gets the same result.
I mean, yeah, Luff stepped it up, but I mean, Shine's got 5 points in his last 4 games.
Yeah,
he's suddenly the second in scoring on the Griffins behind Berggren. I don't know where that came from, but it happened.
Not the empty net goals, I'll tell you that.
No, it's not. He misses those a lot. But anyways, yeah. Anything else, boys?
I don't have any.
I think that covers everything I thought of.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we always like to give the end of the segment. We always give our guests a chance to plug what they're working on, tell the people where they can find them and where to listen to their shows or anything. So, you guys, the floor is yours. Tell the people all about where to find you.
Yeah, you guys can find us on pretty much any social media platform, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're even on Threads, believe it or not. I don't even know if people actually use Threads enough, but I still post on there. I'm the one who runs the socials. You can find us, like I said, at Hockeytown Rundown on pretty much all of our socials. We do our videos on YouTube and on Spotify. We're currently working on other platforms to get us out there, but yeah, that's where you can find us. I do have, like I said, I run the socials, so I have my own Twitter account, which is Zach Trathen. Hockeytown Rundown, I believe, is the handle for that, and then as well as our own. But yeah, that's where you can find me, at least. Derek, Carlo.
Listen to what Zach said, because I don't use my social medias at all. I just use it to like our stuff.
I have to tell him every time socials are up, please go share. And then 3 days later, Derek shared it. Thanks, dude. Better than nothing.
You're a lot like me then, Derek.
It's rough world.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, find me on Twitter. Drumline is my handle, and always online and looking at just all things Red Wings hockey. Obviously, the Grand Rapids Griffins will be sprinkled in there as well as Toledo as well. But mainly, it's a lot of Red Wing stuff, deep dives, a lot of questions. I put up a lot of polls as well, just to kind of get a feeler and a gauge from majority of the fan base on certain topics, because that really does give us some good content to mull over, whether it be pre-show or during a show. So, and we love the engagement with fans. That's one thing I think we try to do a really, really good job on, is engaging with fans and their thoughts. No opinion is a bad opinion. You know what I mean? Everyone has their take, and we love exploring them all. So, YouTube us, Spotify us, Twitter us. We are waiting for you guys to jump in, dive in, so we can have some good discussion.
Awesome. I love that. That's fantastic. Man.
No, we appreciate you fellas coming on. This was good, and we should sync up some more and help each other out. We're both young podcasters. Not in age, but just the age of the podcasting.
Be nice, eh? Be nice.
He's talking about himself.
Yeah.
We'd be more than happy to do another video with you guys. Honestly, I think that this was fantastic. This was great. Honestly, it definitely helps us out understanding more about what's happening in Grand Rapids side of things. Even though Derek lives on that side of town, he needs to start going to games more often with you guys, I believe. So
yeah.
No, thank you guys for joining. This was great. We'll definitely do this more in the future here. Thank you for all your insight and all the questions on Grand Rapids, and we will talk to you guys soon. And we're back. So that was fun to have those boys on here. That was that's a first time for us with them, and good job, sir, connecting us with them. They were a good talk, or a good group to chat with. And it was some good questions from them on the Griffin side of things. I'm glad they asked everything they did.
Yeah, I was waiting for a beat down, throwdown kind of thing like you and I usually do, but it was very simple. And I think we were on kind of the same page of like prospects and how long it takes and what we see coming up and where the holes are for them. So, the draft is going to be big for Steve and filling in those roster spots that we see for needs here, but also to help the Wings. So, it's always good for us to be in the middle. And it sounds like geographically we are in the middle of all three of them as well.
Yeah, it's weird how that works out, right?
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, no, that was a good time, and I appreciate the questions on the Griffins from them. That was fun, and we'll definitely do some more stuff with them in the future. So keep an eye out for that.
And some of our stuff probably didn't cut. Like we'll cut some of our stuff, and they'll cut some of their stuff, and so like you'll want to go check their episode out too, because there'll be stuff that you didn't catch on ours.
Make sure you go head over to Spotify and YouTube, check out their episode. Like Nick said, there'll be parts that aren't in ours, or it'll be exactly the same, and we just did that through our minds. We didn't even know.
Yeah. Who knows what will make the cut?
Yeah, right. But with that, I think it's time to wrap this one up because it's a long one. But thank you to everyone for tuning in. Again, sorry for the one episode miss there. We're back to our normal schedules, hopefully. Our work schedules are crazy, though, so we'll see what happens. But with that, shout out to a couple sponsors here. Thank you to Everything Hockey for your support for the show. Head over to everythinghockey.com. Use code WEST. Get 10% off your order. And shout out to DraftKings as well for being a great sponsor. Make sure you go over there. Use code THPN when you're a first-time customer. With that, thank you to the Hockey Podcast Network for being fantastic hosts. Thank you, Nick, for sticking this out as we've been recording for 3 hours now. Appreciate you, sir. Everybody have a fantastic week. Go Griffins. Go Walleye. Go Red Wings. And we'll talk to y'all on Thursday.
Go Green. Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West Podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at Brandon GR Hockey.